Okay, I would now like to introduce our amazing panelists. We have Lizzie with us today from Change Donations. We have Moiko from Startup Lady, and we have Billy from Fairly. Quickly, I would like to ask each of the panelists to please introduce themselves and the amazing initiative that they have founded and the impact that they're trying to make through their initiative. So I would ask maybe Lizzie to kick off.
Sure. Yeah. Hi. I'm happy to be here. I'm Lizzie Hayashida. I am the co-founder and CEO of Change Donations. We're based in Dublin. So my background is really quick. I moved to Dublin about 3 years ago from San Francisco. So I had worked in startups from everything from fashion to fintech, and then moved to Dublin to do my MBA, where I met my co-founder and we founded Change Donations. And Change Donations, by the way, is I forgot about this piece. So Change Donations is a digital donation platform. We help charities and nonprofits raise funds primarily through roundups. So essentially, we saw there was a huge drop in donations, and then overall, there was actually a 70% drop in cash donations. And so we realized that there was a big problem for charities that charities were facing. And this was actually prior to COVID. So it's obviously become much, much worse. So we developed a way for donors to link a debit card and then round up their purchases to the nearest euro to donate their digital spare change to the causes they cared about most. So yes, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, I think raising funding is a key key factor for each of the startups. So I think the work you are trying to do with Change Donations, I'm sure it's bringing hope to a lot of startups and trying to bring in ideas faster to the marketplace. Thank you so much for your amazing work and your introduction. Next, I would quickly like to move on to Moiko.
Hello, my name is Moeko, and I'm a co-founder and the president of Startup Lady. And I'm joining from Japan, like Ankita. Right now it's 10 p.m. here. We were just talking, everybody's maybe out of the town drinking. And my background, I used to live in London, UK, when I was in high school. And I moved to US. I was like educated. I graduated the university in the US and came back to Japan. And I was working in, consultancy company for several years, and just realized people there had no dream and no passion to the work. So I created my own company. Then there, I actually thought the environment for entrepreneurship for women is not that great here in Japan. So, I was trying to create my own like IT platform. I met the co-founder named Amy, and we kind of discussed about the issue there, and we started to creating the Startup Lady, which actually we focus on entrepreneurship education and also gender equality for female who are trying to be self-sustainable anywhere in the world. We kind of try to educate them to be able to survive anywhere in the world with gender equality. So that's what we do. And we are actually very international. We have people from 52 countries. We are 1,300 people's community. So quite big, and lots of people are supporting us. We really appreciate those people who are supporting us. So we kind of challenge gender equality like you guys.
Thank you, Moiko. So Moiko is not just an entrepreneur herself, but is also trying to create very, very actively by her initiative Startup Lady to an ecosystem in Japan to support female entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for your quick introduction, Moiko. I would finally like to move to Billy. Billy, could you quickly introduce yourself and the Fairly initiative?
Yeah, hi everyone, lovely to be here. I'm Billy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fairly, which is a sexual wellness startup. So I'm really passionate about the intersection of women, tech, and health. And Fairly exists to transform the sexual wellness of women and girls across the world. Basically, it's the digital Viagra for women. So there's 1.5 billion people suffering with a sexual difficulty, and a non-pharmaceutical approach is needed, which is what the Fairly platform provides. I have always been a fan of the startup world, started my career in an early stage FMCG business before moving into cybersecurity, which feels very random, but I was always the first employee and then set off on my own to build my own thing. So I'm excited to share a little bit of my learnings that will hopefully help you today.
Thank you so much, Billy. I think the work that you're trying to do, I mean, like raise sexual awareness is kind of treated as a taboo in societies, I think. So I think Fairly is doing great job, not just for fighting the taboo, but also creating awareness and just normalizing the situation of talking about sexual issues and sexual health. So thank you so much for your initiative. And we are very excited to have you all on our panel today. And I would like to quickly kick off with the first question. So I think we are living in the world where everybody is bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. And it doesn't matter if you have a startup or not. Everybody, I think, needs to have entrepreneurial skills and entrepreneurial mindset. So like, we would like to kick off the session with the first question, like, what was your personal inspiration? What led you to consider entrepreneurship, or thinking of starting your own initiative or your own NPO or your own startup? So again, I would like to ask Lizzie to go first.
Yeah, sure. So I think I'd worked at startups for the last 8 years prior to founding Change Donations, and at varying stages. So I was never the first employee like Billy, but I was kind of top 10 for a few, and then kind of at later stages. And I always ended up in the role of figuring out how to launch the new product. So whether or not it was like the very first new product or just kind of a new product being developed within the startup. And I loved like the figuring out of it. I loved kind of trying to figure out how to put the pieces together. And so I knew that it was something that I always wanted to do, was actually start from the very beginning and be there when everything was kind of being figured out from inception. But I kind of also never had the idea, at the time that I wanted to put all of my time and energy into, because it takes so much time. So for me, it was I had the itch for a long time, just knowing what it took and loving the kind of strategy and the puzzle of it all, figuring it all out. But I was sort of just kind of waiting to have that one idea that grabbed me, and I was like, I can't live without doing this, because it does take all of your time and energy. So that was really it for me.
Okay, Moiko, we would like to hear it from you now.
I briefly maybe mentioned I used to work in a consultancy company, where they had no dream. And when I was sitting on the desk, I was curious how many people here are thinking towards the dream that they are, pursuing and trying to actually see the future. So I asked the person next to me and asked, what's your dream? The person answered, I don't know. And the other one, like next to me, was also saying, I don't know my dream. So I felt there's no passion here in the company, and there's not probably the place where I can grow or I can pursue my passion. So I decided to create my own company where I can realize that my dream, I was clearly having the dream of connecting people, making Japan or people a little more internationalized and educate them. That was my passion like all my life. So I just wanted to realize, so I can't really stop when I, imagine something. So I created my own company and started from there. So that was kind of like ideation part, but I think most of entrepreneurs can't stop. So they just do it right there. I think they never stop.
Thank you for that. Maybe we can quickly jump to Billy. Billy, what was your inspiration around starting Fairly?
Yeah, Livnika's example there, I think I share some of the similar kind of characteristics to yourself. But I started my career in these really early stage startups by accident, totally by accident, but loved it, and it really suited my personality. And then I made the fatal error of going into a IT consultancy for investment banking, and hated every moment. It was the first time I had to dress up in a proper outfit. And I remember walking through the doors on day one and thinking, oh my God, this is the worst place in the world. And I ended up being there for 18 months. But it really didn't suit my personality. I'm someone that loves to kind of bend the rules or break the rules. I'm a bit of a lone wolf, which I've had to learn when leading a team to kind of really adapt that. So that's a skill I've definitely had to develop. But I'm very kind of see the big picture, a bit more visionary in my approach, and felt very constrained by the normal working landscape and felt very stifled there. I remember I had an interaction with one boss who did like a Myers-Briggs test on me, and I came out as the entrepreneur, and I was like, oh, that's amazing, what amazing skills. And she turned around to me and said, I don't want any of these skills in my team, you're not valuable to me. And I was like, what? I think I sound great. So I think that was a big wake-up call for me, that I was probably in the wrong place. But the actual entrepreneurship journey started after an incident in that workplace, which led me to a necessity to leave and then go on kind of an interesting healing journey. And it was through that I really found a bug to wanting to have an impact in the world and wanting to really support other women on their journey. So it was a very natural evolution to kind of create a business and start that. But I wasn't alone. I joined a program called Zinc, and Zinc was an amazing ecosystem that supported me for 6 months in building the business. So I kind of had a nice stepping stone into the entrepreneurship journey rather than just completely being thrown into the deep end.
Okay. So it's very interesting to see. So actually, like for all three of you, the process started from first just, situation around you, and then that leading to actually identifying your own personality or your own choices or like your own preferences, what you do enjoy and what you're trying, what you are best at, just like having that self-awareness and then just going for it, just going ahead and doing it. That's so amazing. I think like identifying and self-awareness is first part, but the next or the difficult part is how do you funnel down to the idea? And once you identify the idea for your startup, how do you go from ideation phase to actually starting up a firm and recruiting, members and finding like-minded people to join your team and support your team and actually starting to taking it forward to a product development or, like how do you transition an idea to the impact stage? So I would like to again start with Lizzie.
Yeah, I think so. For us with Change Donations, because I started it actually as a college project with my co-founder, and we were really fortunate that we had that kind of space to do it. So I had sort of already quit my job, so there was no risk of that. So that was kind of, you already used to being kind of in the deep end and back in college life. So like not having a paycheck and all of that. So that part of it was already sort of taken care of for me, which was nice. And then we just spent the whole college year, like every project we had, we would just relate back to our project at the time. But like we knew it was going to, for us in our kind of hearts and our head, like we knew this is what we wanted to be doing. So the more research we did, the more we learned what an issue charities were facing, and the more we like just felt like we had to solve it. And I think that's a really good position to be in. And we also like, we had so much time, not so much time, but we made so much time to talk to charities and talk to donors and learn what they wanted. And I had to throw out a lot of our initial, thoughts of what we were going to build because it wasn't what anyone wanted. So we had that time to kind of go through the process. And then through the college itself, like we actually were sort of incubated the whole way through because we had all the teachers to talk to and the resources, and actually being in a new country, because we both were randomly American, met in Dublin and started this company. We had to build a network from scratch. So we were really fortunate to have that kind of network sort of built in through the college. And then we were accepted into an accelerator program, and that really kicked off Change Donations in kind of a really real way. I think not only for ourselves, or for me at least mentally, to be like, this is now not a college project, this is now a business. It was a great way to make that mental shift. And then we went on through that program. It was just a summer program, and we went on to win that, which really was the kind of catalyst to, okay, now we're building this. So we spent about a year of just kind of research, and then after that year, we won that thing, and we're like, this, like, people actually want this. We know we can build it. We have the research behind it. And then we just kind of put our own kind of money into that and started building the initial product. But that's how it really started, was just like through school and building that network and building the kind of community that we were able to kind of push it out.
Okay, so how to say? So first step was like finding a co-founder, and then actually eventually applying for maybe a competition, and then winning that competition acted as a great catalyst and eventually helped you to materialize all the aspects around the project. And that what led it to just from a project to a business idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it also like winning the competition kind of, for me at least, gave me like, people actually want this. Okay. Like, it's always nice to have that, it's not just in your head. Like, it's not just you thinking people need it. So
yeah. So much needed validation from the audience was needed. So it was kind of like a test for your product, like quality check for your idea, right? Okay. So let me quickly jump to Moiko. So Moiko, what was, how was the execution journey of your project Startup Lady from ideation phase to actually becoming a full-time NPO?
Yeah, so I was lucky to have a co-founder from the beginning. We were talking about maybe Japan is some role model where actually people can pursue the dream. People never say, I don't have a dream, or I'm not thinking to grow into this kind of adults anymore. If there's a role model, they look at the role model, they want to become like that role model. So that's where the passion was there and the idea was there. So we started as a, first filming people, which wasn't really a great, start, where we didn't have any person who could edit the video or making the video perfect. So first, we were thinking maybe we should make a place for people to get together to listen to those people. So we made a small event. I think you can start off from thinking very big, but maybe starting off as a experiment. I think that's the first step many entrepreneurs can take. Also, you have to think of a lot of monetizing part, if the business works, if the business model fits, and so on. But those things can come together after you should initiate something. Then you should involve people to do something with you. That's the first step I think many people can take. And this event, actually, we were experimenting a lot of things. We started off and people started coming, and we just saw the needs there. There are people. We didn't think there are lots of international people in Japan to begin with who are also interested in to become entrepreneur to begin. But there were a lot of people came. We had like a first event, we had like around 30 to 40 people came, and it was our first event. So we saw the needs and we started to thinking this could become maybe monthly gathering. And we were starting very small as a monthly gathering, but we started receiving offers from companies or collaboration proposal from lots of places. Like even big companies were starting to offering those. So we kind of had to become a company in order to make ourselves more like presentable. So that was us. And yeah, we were having like a discussion talking about lots of business models or things, how to make it work. And we were having like whole vision to always go towards with the co-founders, because we had 4 co-founders, and you have to always match the vision and mission where you're going towards all the time. Otherwise, everybody is having different tactics or different strategy, but the mission or vision could be very blurry if you don't really try to match those. But fortunately, we were doing that, so that's why I think we could grow a little bit more.
Okay. So like one of the takeaways from your story would be like having a bigger vision, but actually starting small. So just going ahead and starting is one of the most critical factor. And your idea doesn't have to be perfect when you start it itself, but you have to keep iterating it along the way. So it's a more of a hit and trial method, right?
Yeah, and I hear lots of people saying woman has try to make everything 100% perfect. Actually, if you're an entrepreneur, you can make things 60% perfect and start off from there. Then you can kind of try to adjust based on the changes. Things change, like COVID happened, or environment change. So you cannot have 100% of the perfect idea all the time. And it's more likely starting small but experimenting things. Like you should make a place where you can experiment things. That's where you can start.
Okay.
With the idea. If you're starting off from the idea, I think that's the best way to initiate.
Okay. So most important thing is just to move ahead with the idea, and along the way, just correct it if you need it as the situation demands. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Billy, what we would like to hear from you, like how was your execution journey?
I want to follow on from what Mika said there, because I think it's such an important point, is that the idea, everyone has this fear around the idea, and that's the hardest part of getting started, is like finding the idea. But actually your idea will change a million times, so it's much better to just throw loads of ideas out there and start to just experiment. And someone said it to me, I had a coach recently, a woman called Chandini, and she said it so beautifully to me. She was like, there are so many white dudes in Silicon Valley that have no clue what they're doing, but just throwing their hands into the fire and waiting to get burnt, and just experimenting and testing. And they all think they're startup bros and they're going to be the next $1 billion business. And she said to me, she was like, women don't do that. Women are afraid of doing that because they feel like they need to have all the answers before they can start. They need to have done all the research. They need to have come to the conclusions. As they said before, with like much more perfectionism. And so your chances of success are much, much lower, because it's through rapid iteration and throwing things at the wall that you'll find something that starts to stick. And so my execution journey, whilst I can definitely share that, I think actually wasn't that valuable. And if I was to go back and do it again, I'd probably do it in a very different way. I think now I would start with actually finding a buyer for my idea rather than building my idea. And there's really easy ways of doing that. And that's, you know, Facebook ads right now are so easy to set up. They're so cheap to get going. And you can start testing value propositions before you even have anything, before you've built anything, before you have any kind of concept of what that's actually going to be, what your business is going to be. And I think that that's a really interesting way to get started, is to actually just come up with these bunch of different ideas, throw up some value propositions onto Facebook, and start to see which one gets the cheap click-through rates, which ones are getting a lot of traction. And then you can start to develop, what does the idea look like on the back of that? And I think that people get quite caught up in what's my big idea, and they just sit back and sort of wait for ideas to land in their lap, and they're like, one day a big idea will land and then I'll kind of start acting on it. But there's loads of things that you can start to do to actually create ideas. Hackathons are an amazing way to get going, and they're not just for techies, they're not just for really technical software engineers, they're for designers, they're for commercial individuals, researchers. So wherever your background is, you can get involved in a hackathon, and that's a really great way to start executing and coming up with these ideas. The other way is getting involved in startup ecosystems, so like the Startup Lady, like a great community like that, where you can be around people who are brainstorming and kind of thinking through the problems in the world. And I went to a panel recently, and the woman there had just raised a Series B of like 50 million. And the way that she started her business was building out a matrix of all the things that she thought were wrong in the world, where there's a huge market for those problems, how much money she thought she could make on those problems. And she just went through this matrix and just crossing off these things until she landed on one that was like, this is a big problem for enough people, and I can see a route to like a commercial route here. Okay, I'm going to start testing that idea. And so that was a really interesting way for me, because my idea came through passion and problem, like something that I was very deeply connected to. And that definitely landed in my lap, if you like. Whereas for her, she actively created this by just ticking off this matrix and going through all these problems. So there's lots of different ways of coming at finding the idea. And then when you have the idea and you're looking to start executing on it, there are really cheap and easy ways to test and validate it before thinking you have to build the company behind it. And I would say that's one of my biggest learnings as well, is there's been a few times in our journey where we've gone into company building mode rather than product building mode. So rather than executing and making sure you've hit product market fit and you're really confident in your product, you get wrapped up in, okay, I need to hire the team, I need to incorporate the company, I need to build out the business. And all of that is a massive distraction until you're confident that you've got the right product for the right market and that can really scale. So those are just a few kind of words of advice from someone who's done it wrong, but has learned the hard way.
No, I completely agree on your points. I think like the way to do, I think the key is to test your hypothesis as many times as you can, and fastest way to do, as you mentioned, is one of the fastest way, luckily, that we are living in the era of like, you know, social media, where everybody is so well connected. So you can actually test your hypothesis with your audience or with your consumers. So that is the first step, and actually the last step, because the product needs to be accepted by the customers. Doesn't matter how the company looks like or how other things around it looks like. So that's a really great insight. And I would like that. That's really motivating, and I think most important takeaway is rather than doing like hard work, we need to be more strategic about it, and we need to be more mindful and adaptive at the same time. So not just fixated in our own roots and our own idea. No, this idea has to work. We need to be out there testing it, and if it's not working, then adapting and learning why it's not working or what we can add. That's so insightful. I'm really, really eager to hear like what are the challenges while you were developing, your idea, from your idea to your product or from your idea to an organization. I'm sure there are a number of challenges that you might have faced. So what were the key challenges, or what would you say are the key skills that entrepreneurs should definitely have, or like people who are trying to start their own project should definitely have? I would like to go to you, Lizzie.
Yeah, I think, well, the biggest challenge was exactly what Moiko and Billy are talking about, where you have to just get something out. And so we faced that a lot, where we did the exact same thing. Like we kept trying to build something and waiting until it was perfect. And then like things were always delayed, and everything is never as perfect as going to be. So we have now adapted a strategy of like smaller releases at a time, which we're still trying to perfect, but like nothing's ever what you think is perfect. And even if it was in 2 weeks, it probably won't be anymore. So it doesn't really matter. So I think learning that mindset has been a massive challenge. And I kind of knew that we needed to do that. Like having worked at startups for basically my whole career, like I'd heard that so many times, and I knew that in my head. So but I just couldn't, as your own product, it was really hard for me to like kind of divorce myself away from it and say, like, it's fine. Like this might not be perfect to you, but like the person that you're going to show it to has no idea what you were going for. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. So that was really hard for me to get to personally. And it's still hard. So it's something that I have to keep telling myself every day. Like it doesn't have to be perfect, and no one knows what your perfect is. And your perfect isn't someone else's perfect. So I think that was a big one. And then in terms of, I think for me, what I think entrepreneurs, like what kind of, I guess, skills or personality traits are important. I think probably one is just like probably a personality trait where you just need to do something. Like you're someone that just needs to kind of start working on something, and you just kind of can't help yourself. So I think it's not a need to have, but I think it's a nice to have. So you really enjoy the process. Even when you're having your worst day, you can kind of look back and be like, I really want to be doing this. But I think outside of that, like also the ability to deal with uncertainty is huge. And I think that's something that you can develop. And for me, at least, it was really great having a co-founder, because I think we have very different skill sets. And so I kind of know if I'm uncertain about something, I can lean on him, and vice versa. And you tend to be in different points of like, oh my God, is this going to work at different times? And that's really great.
So I can attest to that so much.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. Like mental state is so much better for me, at least, with the co-founder. Like it's fantastic. But yeah, I think that was a really big one, or is a really big one, is to be able to deal with uncertainty. And then if it's not a co-founder, at least have a good like supportive group that you can talk through things with, and you have people you can go to. That's a huge difference. So I think building your network and the ability to build your network of people that you really trust is really important.
Okay, so having grit to just keep going, and network, and also having a mindset that it's gonna be all right. Just keep moving at it, and just enjoy the complete process while being at it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Moiko, we would like to hear what were like your challenges when you were trying to establish Startup Lady.
So I really agree with Lizzie. We were having like different backgrounds and different, but we kind of like to come to one conclusion with 4Brains. We were four co-founders. So it was very hard to actually go towards the same, completely same opinion, because everybody has different ideas. probably at this time I didn't realize, but when people are not motivated, they are never, you know, doing great to your company, or they even leave your company. So this like motivation is really important key role. Like if you are the founder of the company, you have to always think how to motivate this person. If this person is willing to receive money, if this person is willing to do good for the society, or if this person is motivated because the person likes to get, I don't know, talk to other people, like you kind of have to try to see what the person is wanting to receive and motivate them by maybe giving the opportunity. So if the motivated, any work could be, you know, pleasure for them, right? Anything they do is very, very good because they're motivated, they're going towards the same goal. So this is one way to that I think the founder of the company or a person who's managing the company has to have, how to motivate people. They always have to think of that, because people is a key element. Like we deal with we talk to lots of VCs, and many VCs say ideas are everywhere. People can think of any ideas. There are ideas all over the world. If ideas are great, that's okay, but they don't invest because they look at the people and they see, oh, this team can make it. If they can probably go through like a unseen, like some uncertainty, maybe they can foresee the future, they can probably go through all the difficulties. So people judge by looking at people and the team, and they don't really judge by the idea, not 100% by idea. So I think like motivating team, making smooth communication, and try to actually see what the person is wanting within the team is very important. And I think many of the people try to like do everything on their own. If you're like alone finding the company, but you're never, you cannot have whole skills. You cannot do everything on like everything, like you cannot achieve everything by yourself. So you should always try to find, if you can't do accounting, find a person who can maybe like help you supporting accounting. Or like Lizzie says, advisor can even give you great advice because they are specialized in one area or two areas or whatever areas that you're not good at. So like you should learn the skill to depend on someone, like not try to achieve everything on your own. I think is very important skill besides overcoming with the uncertainty. It's also very important skill, but yeah.
Okay, so first one would be not falling in the trap of doing everything by your own, but actually valuing your team and keep everybody aligned and motivated to, you know, just be at it and just move forward with like creating or, you know, executing the idea. That's a great, I think that's a great tip. I would like to hear, Billy, what were the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
I'm going to be slightly controversial and just challenge that last point a little bit, because I wholeheartedly agree there comes a point where you have to step back and delegate, and you have to be willing to be, the saying goes, you want to be the dumbest person in the room, right? You want to surround yourself with really incredible people that can do their jobs better than you. And I absolutely believe that. But I think when you're starting out, there's something really valuable in doing the roles that you're hiring for, and at least understanding what they do, how they do it, and knowing that you're never going to be the expert in it. You're never going to be the specialist or the one that does it for the longest time. But Ben Horowitz wrote in a book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's a really great book if you get a chance to read it. And he was having a really terrible time hiring someone for sales, and they had no idea what they were doing and what that department even did. And so even though he'd never done that role in his life, he stepped into it and started running the department. And it just gave him such an insight into what he was actually recruiting for, what they would be doing, and then how to have a really sensible conversation with the person that he recruited and brought into the team. And I think there is something really valuable in that. And so when you're starting the business, you do have to get your hands dirty in everything and be across the entire business, but it's recognizing when to step back and then delegate and then bring in great people, and being able to let go of your ego so that you can allow those people to really be great. And I think that can be really challenging for a lot of entrepreneurs. I think ego is something that can manifest itself in all of us, and we have to be able to step away from. So I think that's one thing. I think to the point Sarah and Lizzie was making around co-founder, building a business, unless you know your co-founder really, really well, if you've come from an incubator or an accelerator or met them in some type of community and you've started to build a business quite quickly, it's really hard to sort of develop that trust and empathy. But those are two really, really important skills that you need to learn as an entrepreneur, especially if you're going to have that co-founding relationship, because you have to believe that they are pulling their weight and investing their time in the same way as you, and that you can't micromanage what they're doing, and you know you need to be moving in the right direction. So I think developing empathy and trust is really, really crucial. And it's crucial for your co-founder relationship, but it's also really crucial for building your product, because another skill that I've had to really learn along the way is listening to customers, listening to your users, listening to who are the people that you're building this for, and not just hearing what you want to hear, but hearing what they're actually telling you, so that you're trying to remove your confirmation bias when you're building your product. So you have a view of how you want it to be built and how it should look and how it should feel. And when someone challenges that, it's really hard to hear, but it's so crucial and so critical. So developing that skill set is like one of the most valuable things I think you can do as a founder of a business. There's a great book called The Mum Test. That is a really great introduction just to how to conduct user testing. It's super quick read. You can actually watch 4 YouTube videos if you're not a reader. He's written them all up and done them on video. But that's been, we now run like monthly user testing sessions to really hear from our community and hear their feedback. And that's been a challenge, but it's one of the most valuable things that we do as a business. And then I think the other two have said this really well, but it's the beginner's mindset. So unless you're a second-time founder that has gone all the way through from ideation to exit, the chances are quite quickly there'll be a stage in the business that you've never done before, and then as soon as you've done that, you'll get to the next stage of the business that you've never done before, and then you'll do that, and quite quickly you'll get to the next stage of the business that you've never done before. And especially if you're kind of trying to build a high growth startup, or you're backed by VC money, you have to level up so quickly. And that comes back to this ego point. Like, you have to be able to let go of your ego and take a real beginner's mindset to every new role, be able to take on advice, interpret it how you want to, and then kind of take that forward. But knowing that as soon as you start to feel comfortable, the chances are around the corner you're going to feel like you're completely useless again and you've never done what's in front of you. And it's the willingness to keep learning and keep growing that is so crucial to your success. Otherwise, you'll quite quickly get replaced. Someone will boot you out and replace you to do it instead. So yeah, I think that's one that's been really really important for us as we built Furly. A beginner's mind.
Okay, so having like an open mindset, and at the same time, being motivated to keep learning, being at it, and having empathy as well, to not just hear things what we want to hear, but actually listen what is the demand of the time, or what is the demand of the audience at that point of view. Yeah, that's I think a great takeaway, and I would recommend all our participants today to please go and check out the Mum's Test.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your challenges and the different ways that budding entrepreneurs or people who are already into entrepreneurship and have their own initiatives can learn from and test them for themselves, what works and what does not work.